So can we at least admit, and in all honesty, it's obviously for the older team rather than the younger team because they no longer identify. I mean, after all, it's not been their life experience. But, people apparently now kicking at least 60 remember back in the days like the 70s, up until that point, that bees were everywhere. Children, and I thought it was just me because I've covered it lately, in relation to the amount of bees. They're no longer there. As children, you'd wash out a jam jar for whatever idiot reason, and as you're out in the field, or honestly, I remember it from Clarmiston, and it was the bowling green, which even then I don't think was cutting it because obviously the bowling green was full of flowers and bees were everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Yeah, and you'd put them in a jam jar and then you'd let them go. But there is not a chance of anything like that now, and people could say because they're that fucking thick, many of them, well, that's a good job. No, it's literally demonstrably the case that we have a fraction of the amount of bees that we used to have. And by the way, has anybody noticed about the amount of different birds? By the numbers that we used to have that we don't have now. Now you've got people like what's that guy, Chris Packham or whatever the hell, and he blames cats. That's it. It's cats. That's it. Everybody should have their cat in their house. Blah blah blah. But historically, when it comes to the UK, lots of people had cats. Like, going back many, 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 many years. Yeah, historically. But what they didn't have was a couple of things. Glyphosates in an ever-changing spectrum of G2, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, blah, blah, blah. And then on top of that, the chemtrailing. Look, I've always said it's the fucking toughest subject to sell to anybody because the level of denial is astounding. You used to see clear skies. None of this fucking things coming out the back of jets that would normally last, honestly, like 30 seconds to a minute max, no matter what altitude, but not now. Over the sky, and then there's this haze, this constant haze. Think about this. Only used to be in the days with coastal areas and fogs, by and large, with few exceptions. Yeah. It's there in plain sight, but not for most people. And I have never seen so much pushback on a subject. The level of denial about chemtrails, because I've said it to so many occultists, like, you're not on board if you're breathing the same air as the rest of us. And look, I've gone as far as to say is, given the chemical composition, if you're honest with yourself, we have to be somewhere. All of us must now be somewhere on an autism spectrum because heavy metal particulate matter has been dropping from the skies for decades. Yeah. But even as simple as things like, where's all the bees gone?
For you. Where are all the bees? I've got my lavender here. It's a lovely afternoon. At 24, 25 degrees. And this should be crawling with hundreds of bees. And there isn't one. There isn't any on my skatias either. Or my foxgloves. There's one on my geraniums. Those Canterbury bells are normally ringing with them. And as I walk along here, these oxeye daisies, and there's thousands of them. There isn't a pollinator in sight. And that includes my cornflowers.
Keep the beekeeper's arms open all the time. So it isn't like they can't get a drink.
So I really am at a loss as to what I'm doing wrong.
Mind you, I have no idea about this individual. Does he spray his everywhere that he owns, garden-wise or land-wise, with glyphosates? He may be well aware of it. I have no idea. But I would certainly not recommend glyphosates anywhere near you or anything to do with vegetation. I mean, the naivety that companies like Monsanto, seriously, they've not got a good history as regards, fallout from whatever they're spraying and recommending. And then you look at councils, and as I've covered recently, council contracts, housing association contracts, when they know that there is concern about glyphosates, where the company they have got into contract with have had to offer chemical-free solutions to some councils down south because there was a concern. Yeah. There is no end to where this goes, but the level of denial is astounding. And I would say, especially older people, let's not lie to ourselves. Where the hell has all the bees gone? Yeah, seriously. And I'll speak to you soon.